All right, this is part 2 of January 27th trade review and its futures, and it was freaking painful. Oh my god, it was so painful. This was a terrible day. Worst day no, hardest day psych-wise, trading psychology-wise that I've had in all of January. For those of you that remember, Friday was rough. I'll show you what happened on Friday. Friday was pretty rough because I essentially took this trade here. Took a reversal trade here. Falling wedge. Reversed off of a pivot. Looked pretty good. My PT was all the way up here. Stop loss here. Moved up my stop loss to here. Moved it at break even at this point. And I actually stopped out for slight profit. So as you guys saw, on Friday I took this trade. And it was the first reversal trade that I've taken that went a long ways and didn't actually get to my final PT. And it came all the way back down. I sold for a small profit here. That was very painful because I sat in the trade for almost an hour. Notice the size of this trade too. I sat in this trade for an hour. My PT was 49 points away. It got to like 47. Very painful. Keep that in mind when I review today's futures trading. Looks like ES finally went up. I called it. I called it in live. I said it's going to do that. It's likely to do that. Anyway, so here we are. It is now 8:30. I have these pivots here. Just go to current price action. Let me chart the pivots I had. Not this one here. Okay. Options is done. I'm in futures now. Cool. First thing I say is, you know what? I don't really have any trades. This was the trade. Like, this was the trade. And I don't really have any trades after that. I did call a potential trade that I wasn't really willing to take. Maybe if it looked perfect, I would have. But this is a nice pivot here on NQ, and NQ seemed to be weaker than ES. I said you could take a reversal trade off of this high. I mean, I don't think it would look bad. I can see a handle forming. The problem is the trend is extremely strong, and it's a different kind of day, right? It's a very fundamental day. Well, we ended up getting to this high. You see that ES is now stronger than NQ. You can see that. NQ got to the high, and then it got the reversal candle. I called it out. I'm like, you know what? This is an okay reversal trade. It actually kind of on this drop, ES looks weaker, but whatever. This is the trade that I called out. This would be my stop loss. Keep in mind the size of these trades. Just that stop loss is 28 points away on NQ, which is a lot. That's like my, it's like a green trade. PT 38.2% fib. That's the trade that I laid out, but it just wasn't likely enough. You know, after we chopped up so hard on NQ and how bullish the trend was, this trade just simply wasn't likely enough for me to take. It was okay. I mean, it was on a pivot and you got a reversal from that pivot, but you didn't really get a bearish reversal candle. Like this red candle is bearish. There's nothing really bullish about it, but the high of day candle didn't get a crazy selling wick. I didn't get a shooting star or gravestone doji. I didn't get something that's like, hey, there's a reversal, nor is there supply, which you don't really need if you have a pivot. But this pivot isn't really a big deal also. It's just a point on the way down, you know? And on top of that, the biggest thing is I didn't get a major volume spike. So I called out this trade. I laid it out, but I didn't take it. I wanted to be a little bit more picky with my trades. And I said I'd rather dip buy. Because, I mean, if you look at price action since this morning happened, dip buys were the way to make money. I would much rather dip buy longs than try to catch the top with shorts, especially when we dropped so much last night. I don't know how high it's going to go back. And the reason why it dropped, the China AI stuff, um, it didn't really make that much sense to me. It didn't seem that bearish. So I didn't really, when I don't understand it, I try not to bet against whatever trend we have. But this is a trade that I laid out. And it ended up getting there. So good trade, good analysis, wasn't likely to play out. And after this moment, I forgot to knock on wood after I said it, but I said, it's going to be the unlikely trades that play out today and the likely ones that don't. I should have knocked on wood, man. But ES was stronger than NQ at the moment. I was looking for a dip buy to continue up to my next pivot. That's what I was looking for. And I almost entered longs here because it invalidated most of the move, but it got the selling wick, so I waited. And then this gorgeous candle happened on ES. I took a long here. I mean, it was stronger than in Q. It looked pretty good. So this is a trade I took. This actually has pretty good odds. Here was a trade. The price target was really here. Crazy risk to reward, but good trade. Good odds. I got lower lows with buying race. I'm chopping down. It's stronger than in Q. Looked good. This is the first trade I took. And it stopped out pretty much immediately. And a candle and a half, it stopped out. I'm like, oh, well, there goes that first one. So first trade was a loss. And of course, that hurts the psychology a bit because the trade that I called out was the trade that worked. But it was the one I didn't enter. You guys know that kind of hurts your psychology regardless. It didn't hurt too much. Like it wasn't like a frustrating thing. It was more of like an annoyance. So I'm like, well, that's not working. This is a pretty bearish candle. So I kind of throw out the bullish hypothesis unless it comes all the way back up. I'll re-enter longs one more time because it'll be even more likely. But now if we zoom out, it's looking a lot like a head and shoulders. So I'm thinking about shorts or longs at the 61.8 fib on either ES or NQ because I believe it has a very strong likelihood of rebounding here. Whether to form a head and shoulders or not, I mean, either it forms a head and shoulder, which is bearish, or it goes up, or it goes straight down. Two of those three things equal a bounce. Pretty good odds to me. But we kind of end up continuing to drop. Can't really chase it. I don't have bearish consolidation. We got there. I was heavily considering a long entry, but the candles just didn't work right. We got a selling wick. I was trying to be as picky as possible as well. And, I almost got into a lot of trades. I almost got into this one here. I didn't. I almost got into this reversal trade here. I didn't. I almost got into the first trade. I didn't. So I'm sitting out on a lot of trades today. More good than bad. Like sitting out is a good thing versus a bad thing. But now it's looking like we may bounce on the 78.6, but ES is kind of putting in a reversal candle here. It doesn't really look bad. We try bouncing again. It's not really working. ES flips strong. We get a big red candle here with some volume. And then the next candle is this huge green one. I ended up taking a reversal trade here off the 78.6. It didn't seem like a bad trade to me. I mean, I put my stop loss pretty close. It was a very small loss. And really the PT was subjective. Really right here, or the 61.8. It was truly pretty likely. We had a nice head and shoulders. This is one of the only places I believe it's likely to bounce if it does put in that right shoulder, which I think is pretty likely. But after reviewing, so the last trade was flawless. Reviewing this trade, though, I don't think I should have entered it, only because I have to hold it to the same standard of this trade here. I didn't enter this reversal trade, right? And this trade looked okay. It rejected a pivot, but it had no volume. This trade was okay. It was bouncing in, and it put in a decent reversal signal in an area that I expected it to, which is pretty much the same as this, right? This is one reason it should go down. This is one reason it should go up. I mean, if we do probability analysis, reason it should go up. Reason it should go down. And then for this trade here, I'm going to delete these fibs real quick. For this trade here, I'm doing this. For this trade, this. All right, reason it should go up. It's in an uptrend. Reason this should go, we'll just do this right side first. Reason it should go up. It's in an uptrend. Reason it should go down. It swept a pivot. I don't have volume. I don't really have a reversal candlestick like a you know, shooting star, gravestone doji. It's not really chopping up. I mean, it did once, but no major wick, no volume. I mean, that's pretty much the trade, right? One reason should go up, one reason should go down. So while it was okay, I sat out this trade. Now let's do the probability analysis for this trade here. And again, this trade was an okay trade. So was this one. I actually thought this one had higher odds than this one. I believe it's true. Like, this did have higher odds than this one. However, it didn't have much higher odds. Like a fraction of one of these tallies. Reasons why it should go down. It's in a downtrend. Reason it should go up. I can combine this bounce with the head and shoulders, right? It's bouncing to form a head and shoulders. Just like this swept a pivot, head and shoulders, reason it should go up. Again, no major wick, no major volume spike. So while I did believe this had better odds because it was kind of in favor of the overall trend, maybe I give this like a fraction of a tally mark. This trade wasn't much different than the other one. So realistically, I shouldn't have taken this one only because I didn't take the last one. Right? You need to be consistent. Well, the problem is after I sit out of like 3 trades and I have to react to something a little bit more quickly, I'm less willing to take a step back and say, you know what, let's actually compare this reversal to this one and actually draw this out, which should have been done, but also impatience is a thing. And I was more willing to pull the trigger on this one more than likely because I sat out on this one. Because I sat out on this one and it worked, subconsciously I'm a little bit more willing to pull the trigger on a very similar setup to this one. Because it's a very similar setup. The only difference is one's on a pivot, one's a pivot trade and one's a pattern trade, which are both one reason in favor of the reversal. But as far as the probability analysis is concerned, pretty much the same setup, right? Now, I was more willing to take this one because I sat out this one and it didn't work, when in reality, you need to be consistent. If I sat out this trade, I need to sit out this one because it's pretty much the same trade, right? Again, the pivots, this one's on a pivot, this one's not, but this one's a pattern and this one's not, right? They're pretty much the same trade. So that was one of the flaws today. I shouldn't have entered that trade. Now, was it a bad trade? No, absolutely not. Just like this wasn't a bad trade either. But just being critical of myself, shouldn't have entered this trade. It did end up sweeping my stop loss pretty much immediately, twice in a row. But it did end up bouncing. So I wasn't wrong. It ended up bouncing. NES was stronger than NQ. And that was my second loss, but now we have an issue. NQ's not really bouncing much. And what's it look like? Well, it looks like a bear pennant. This is my nearest pivot. But does that look like head and shoulders? No. Does this bear pennant look like it's super likely to break to the upside or downside? I believed it was more likely to break to the upside, even though it was weaker, because if I have a head and shoulders that looks like this, I'm going to assume that the right shoulder is going to look like this, which means if I get in now, I stop out. So the only way I possibly enter shorts is if it comes up, sweeps sell side liquidity, then comes back down, and it puts in a bear flag. Because a bear flag at least has multiple sell side sweeps, and it's much more likely to play out. That is the bare minimum. I did want to enter, like I did, especially because it's weak, and the downtrend is so strong, but I held off. And I'm glad that I did, because I would have stopped out right there. But on the next candle, I can't avoid. I have to get in. Right, we swept. This is a perfect bear flag. No, it's not a head and shoulders. But this is enough for me to get in. And also with how patient I was, in the exact entry location, if I stopped out of this trade during this review right now, I wouldn't look back on this trade and think I should have done something different. Now, I was thinking about trailing my PT. If this did go the right direction, I was thinking about just trailing my stop loss down to this pivot on ES. And I would have done that, but NQ didn't really put in a head and shoulders. I think it's way more likely to do this, right? Or chop its way down and put in a falling wedge, right? So I ended up getting there, which was really nice. We kind of bounced here. I'm like, oh no, it might stop out because we just made a lower low, but it didn't. So we ended up getting there. I made back most of my loss. I was red by like a fraction of a red trade. And, again, if I didn't take this trade, I would have been green at the moment. But this is a very like small error. It's that error is not really it's really not that big of a deal. It's just me being critical. Just small mental notes just for future, right? We always look to get better. So anyways, I'm looking for a potential reversal trade. Not really. It just kind of depends, if because now I'm still thinking head and shoulders. It didn't really form one. It didn't really form a right shoulder. Yeah, I'm thinking head and shoulders. So I'm looking for a potential reversal trade. I don't really get one. I could maybe enter a reversal here, but keep in mind, I just lost on a reversal trade that I knew right after enter. I'm like, I didn't really need to enter it. Even though I could make a bunch of money if it reverses, if I enter a reversal trade and it goes all the way back up, I'm unwilling to sit here and just enter a bunch of reversal trades in front of you guys, right? I wouldn't even do it on my own. Like that's just you guys know what happens when you go down that road, right? So I'm not willing to just enter a bunch of reversal trades and keep getting swept. So I decided to wait. We end up dropping a bit further, and we put in another bearish consolidation. But again, I was thinking it's more likely to break to the upside, and it did briefly, and then it came back down. This is a potential short trade here. I'm unwilling to enter though. Why? Well, because this was kind of a pivot for me on NQ. This was kind of the last pivot I had, and I just didn't think it was likely enough to continue down. If it got another oscillation, I would have, but I didn't like it enough. Not nearly enough to do it. And it was a great idea that I didn't because I would have got stopped out. Now, this trade is a potential trade as well. Because now we just swept higher highs and came all the way back down. What's the issue on NQ? We just made lower lows, okay? We just made lower lows, and off this lower low, we exploded out of it. There's a lot of buyers down here. I don't really want to go against that. Plus, ES is kind of on a pivot. It has a perfect double bottom, so I'm bearish for this double bottom to break, but then what? This green candle really throws it off. Really throws it off. There's way too many buyers down here. I decided not to. And the trade I was looking at kind of this entire time, like, okay, well, if it goes up, I can enter this trade here. To this high. This is kind of the trade I was thinking. So I thought I may enter it on this candle. I didn't, and now I'm waiting again. NQ ends up making a lower low, so does ES. And we end up popping up. And I enter longs on this candle here on NQ. Well, let's analyze this trade. So we have swept lower lows on a pivot. Keep in mind, I'm waiting. Like, I'm very patient today. Despite me starting off with not the greatest psychology because I called out the high of day and I didn't make money on it. Not only that, I'm currently red on the day, just by a little bit, but I'm red on the day when the market's moving like this. That doesn't happen, usually. And it could have easily not happened if I took the reversal trade here, and did some things different. Overall, I'm just kind of annoyed because I don't lose money when the market's moving like this. But anyways, I took longs here, and if we count it out, we have lower lows on a pivot. NQ looks stronger than ES, and we are playing a falling wedge across the board. On top of that, ES and NQ didn't form a proper right shoulder. I think this is super, super likely to bounce. I love this trade setup. The bottom trend line was a perfect trend line. This was just a nice setup. I really like this setup. And, the PTO is really far away. Remember Friday's trade where I sat in an hour? I sat an hour in that trade almost, and I needed 49 points, and it went 47.5 before turning around and dumping. Well, this trade, I needed 70 points. pretty much 70 points. So this is a much bigger trade, like 60% larger trade than that previous one. But I did really like the setup, and we had a volume spike down here as well. We had a glorious breakout, and right before this breakout happened, I'm like, that PT's really far away. I could just take it to the 38.2% fib. And from there, it's pretty likely to put in, I think, an inverse head and shoulders before it keeps going up. So I'm thinking this right shoulder is likely. Like, it'll pull back before it gets there. I was thinking that before this before this breakout candle. But this is like the greatest breakout candle I've seen in a trade in a while. I mean, this breakout candle was 30 points in itself. And look at the volume, mind you. Perfect volume, not a major volume spike. Nice increasing volume. It looked like pure buyer, short squeeze, flawless. I cannot, when I see this candle, I cannot choose a closer PT. Like, that's just bad psych. It really is. It's just bad psych. So I kept my PT up here and was up a ton on this trade. Next candle. Opened just as I thought, looked great. End up closing with a selling wick, unfortunately. Like, okay. It got a selling wick. It's a smaller candle and a volume spike. Now, it's not really a reversal candle, but it's a candle that indicates consolidation. I'm like, okay, well, we're probably going to get the inverse head and shoulders. Here, by this point, I kind of creeped up the stop loss to here. I should have, and my second error of the day is it should have been at break even. It went high enough to do that. But honestly, when it was, you guys know I'm never an optimist when I trade, but with the way this breakout looked and the size of these candles, I wasn't even thinking about moving my stop loss up more because I creeped it up at the beginning. It didn't even cross my mind to move my stop loss up more because it was so close to PT so quickly. It was glorious. Unfortunately, we started pulling back. NQ flipped weak. I'm like, and now that it started dropping, I thought about my stop loss, even though I'm still bullish. Like, it looks like an inverse head and shoulders. It looks fine. Now I think about my stop loss again naturally. It's like, it's kind of harder to move your stop loss up when the trade's pulling back. You all know what I mean psychologically. You're just less willing to move your stop loss up if you know that it's more likely to sweep it. Put in this great buying wick, and by here I knew it was going to stop out, and it stopped out. So that was a heartbreaker because it was up 60 points. And Fridays, I didn't think it was possible to happen 2 days in a row. Because Fridays, let's go back to Friday's trade. What trade was it? Let's look. Oh no, it was a falling wedge on a pivot with lower lows. It was an identical trade. And this one went up for an entire hour. That one was only going up for 2 minutes. Surely it would hit PT. Surely the exact same trade, the exact same extremely high probability trade would not magically dump all the way back down to my stop loss instead of only going a few more points twice in a row. Like, that's what went in my head. I'm like, this is the exact same trade I took on Friday. Or very, very freaking close to it. Somehow, some way, for the first time in like live history, we had two massive green to red trades in a row, both fantastic probabilities. 2 days in a row go from huge green to red in like 3 minutes. Friday did the same thing. It was all the way up here, and then all of a sudden Trump was talking, and it went boom, boom, and it's done. So this was a heartbreaker. This trashed the psychology. Did I act on it? No. The loss was pretty small, and I was back to being down only by about one green trade. So I'm like, all right, well, if, I've only taken 4 trades at that moment. My max is 6. So if it goes back up, I'm willing to try it again. NQ just made a lower low. Sure enough, it went right back up. This time I went into ES though. I'm like, all right, I'm giving it one more attempt. Maybe not one more attempt, but it's looking pretty good. It looks like it swept my stop loss. Now keep in mind, me moving my stop loss up was great. My second error of the day is I didn't put my stop loss to break even. It should have been a break. It went plenty high enough to be a break even. I just wasn't thinking about it. I mean, when's the last time I had a trade within 2 candles explode 56 points and I'm not at my PT yet? Never is the answer. Literally has never happened in live trading futures. Like actually has never happened because I don't trade during news. I don't trade during FOMC. I don't trade pre-market CPI. It literally never happens. And the other news time of day, 30 minutes after market open, I'm trading options. It never happens. So it was a rare thing. But anyways, I ended up re-entering longs here. Had to. Stop loss was here. Stop loss was here. Most of the green candle gone. Fairly subjective PT. It's a 1-to-1 risk to reward to this high. However, I'm looking for this NQ high still because by the time ES gets to this high, NQ will be up here, and that'll put ES somewhere up here. So it's a subjective PT. Looked pretty good. I'm confirmed in. I'll give it a shot. Plus, we're still on the pivot, and with how big this freaking green candle is, I don't know, the other one's invalidated, and this one was no different. So this one invalidated shortly after, and it got my stop loss to the tick. 1 tick past my stop loss to just icing on the cake. So, icing on the cake, just more psych deterioration and annoyance. So there's another loss. And of course, I got to make the decision quickly. Look how much stronger ES is than NQ. NQ still has low a day. I said, all right, I'm taking one more trade. This is my last one. If I lose this trade, then that's going to put me down about 2.5 to 3 green trades. And that's it. That's it for the day. And this is my 6th trade. So I gave it one more chance, and it was really annoying because I actually filled during the next candle at a worse average. Pretty much, I moved my stop loss even closer, so it wasn't as big of a stop loss. It was right here. Started off good, and until it wasn't. It swept this high and dumped. So that was it for today. So pretty unlucky things happened. Didn't enter this. That's fine. This one, more than unlucky. This sweep to 1 tick, more than unlucky. Just super unlucky things. And really, with the errors that happened, it still would have been a red day. It would have just been a little less red. The only errors was shouldn't have entered this trade, not because it was a bad trade, but because I didn't hold it to the same standard as this trade. If I did, I wouldn't have entered this trade. Even if this trade did work out, I probably wouldn't have been. Realistically, I probably wouldn't be saying that right now. But it would have been just like, oh, I got away with that. But realistically, I didn't hold this trade to the same standard here because not only was I red on the day, but I was waiting for a trade, so I was more willing to take less likely trades. Still a good trade, but again, shouldn't have taken this one. And my only other error was moving my stop loss, not moving my stop loss to break even here. But you can't really blame me for that because it went, like I said, 56 points in 2 minutes. It was looking pretty guaranteed. Didn't even think about my stop loss after I already creeped it up. So very, very, very unlucky day. Should have been green. Could have been green if just a couple. Really, if this trade hit PT, if for whatever reason I decided to enter this reversal trade or this trade hit PT, would have been an easy green day, no problem. But that's just way the cards were dealt today. And even though my psychology was like trashed, wasn't even tempted to break my rules. It's just like, well, I was a victim, and sometimes you just gotta allow yourself to be a victim and allow the law of probabilities to work its magic, right? For every super unlucky day, there's going to be an equal and opposite super lucky day on the horizon, but that's only if you accept your outcomes and don't break your rules when you get unlucky, because if you break your rules when you're unlucky, you're no longer exposed to being lucky. You're exposed to being statistically guaranteed to blow up. So that was my day today. Fairly large red day. Again, it's like a little less than 3 green trades. But yeah, it was pretty rough. It was not a very fun time. And the odds of 2 fantastic falling wedge trades on pivots running extremely hard and then stopping me out right before PT 2 days in a row, both of which would have had me nice and green on the day, is like absurd. That's why I was so freaking annoyed. But it is what it is. You know, that's part of flawless trading. You gotta allow yourself to get extremely unlucky and not don't fold like a lawn chair and start breaking your rules over it. Fridays hurt more. Some of you guys said Friday hurt more, but I think that's because we were in it a lot longer. Today hurt me a lot more, not only because I perfectly called high of day and didn't get in, and not only this trade 2 days in a row was flawless until it wasn't and stopped me out, but then on top of it, this perfectly swept my stop loss as well, just for me to get back in with a worse average and lose again. So today was definitely worse, and Friday was a pretty small red day because I made good money back on that huge drop that happened. It was a really small day, small red day. The losses were so small. I mean, my average loss on Friday was only like $150. Extremely small red day, but and it was supposed to be a bright green day, but yeah, it was rough today. Very, 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 very hard, difficult, terrible day. But again, flawless psychology, flawless psych, and that's really all that matters. Because if you don't have flawless psych, you're not going to do what we're doing right now and improve. Instead, you're just going to reinforce bad habits and you're going to wait until you have nothing left to actually start improving. Mine was more, Bryce. Well, it probably shouldn't have. I'm talking about my trades though. I don't know how much your Friday hurt. I don't know. I'm talking about my trades though. Um, but yeah. So, anyways, that was today. I was a victim, but it is what it is. You know, it's just so rare that price action moves that much and I don't make money. It's really rare, especially because I called high of day 2 and called out a reversal trade. Very, very, very rare, but it is what it is. But all right. Does anyone have any questions whatsoever before I hop out of here? Let's see what the market is doing right now. Yeah, good price. It's okay. This is okay price action right here. This is kind of a mess, but see, like this, and it also pained me because like technically it invalidated a majority of this run, so I'm supposed to be bearish to here, but I'm never entering that trade when it's that clear of a head and shoulders. It's never gonna happen. But like this was a pretty good short here to here. Would I have taken this long? Probably not. Could have maybe taken it here, would have stopped out. You could have, again, here, and it would have made money. But this was a nice rejection as well. But, all right, well, that's it. So that's it for this recording. You guys have a blessed rest of your day. We are going to, in about an hour or so, we are going to draw the promo winners. So everyone react to that post. And, yeah, I'll let you guys know when I'm posting this on YouTube. I'm finally back and posting things on YouTube, so we will be back on the grind. Hopefully tomorrow is a way better day. Today was freaking brutal, man. I hate those massive green to red trades, but that was literally that PT was my second furthest PT I've ever had in this, and it was almost there in just 2 candles. Painful stuff, but it is what it is. All right, I'll let you guys know when it's posted. I'll see you guys later. Let me know if you need anything, and hopefully tomorrow is a lot better of a day. I'll see you guys later.